Welcome back to the afternoon session of the June 30th public meeting of the Landmarks Preservation Commission. We are beginning this afternoon with the first of 4 public meeting items. And if you are interested in watching the proceedings, you may do so on our live stream on our main YouTube channel. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Corey, our Director of Preservation, to read the first item into the record.
Well, it's actually me.
Oh, sorry, Caroline. Caroline Canleby, Deputy Director of Preservation.
And we're actually starting with the second of our public meeting agenda, which is item number 2. And it's an applicant docket number 20-11073, 29 to 37 J Street, also known as 16 to 18 Plymouth Street in the Dumbo Historic District in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 20, Lot 1, zoned M1/6. And it is an amendment for a previous approval, a warehouse built in 1975 to 1977. The application is to amend the plans for a new building approved at the public meeting of November 13th, 2018.
Okay, and the applicants have joined the meeting. Please state your name for the record. Click on the screen to control the presentation slides, and you may begin.
We need a motion to open the hearing. Or open the proceedings, rather.
Sorry, Mark, I was muted. Yes, let's have a motion to open the proceedings. Commissioner Holford-Smith, would you make that motion?
So moved.
And Commissioner Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and the applicant may now begin.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah, great. Good afternoon, commissioners. It's nice to see you all. This is Elise Quaisbarth from Higgins Quaisbarth. We've been the historic preservation consulting firm for this project for some time. Can we advance the slide to the first title page of our set? Great, thank you very much. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce the team. First, there was a transfer of ownership of the site in March to Edward J. Minskoff Equities, and Joe Meng from EJM is here to answer any questions that might be directed to ownership. Melanie Myers from Fried Frank has continued as legal counsel, and she is here to answer questions as well. Marvel Architects continues as the architect for the project, and Jonathan Marvel is present. Tim Fryatt also, who will deliver most of the presentation. We saw you last in November of 2018 for the approval of 29 J Street, a handsome contemporary building clad in GFRC, resonant in scale, design, and material with the historic buildings in the Dumbo Historic District. The new owners are very much dedicated to the spirit and aesthetic of the approved design and its use as an office building. It's not unusual for small modifications to arise during the preparation of construction documentation, and most of these changes are often managed at the staff level. In this presentation, some small changes that meet the staff threshold for approval will show up in our drawings today, but there are a few that the staff identified for review by the commissioners. Tim Fryatt will outline the specific items that are before you today before he describes them and their impact on the building's design. Some of these changes, we think, make improvements to the design in terms of additional detail and muscularity of facade elements, but in all cases, they continue the robust architectural expression that you approved in 2018. And we all look forward to seeing the construction of this new building moving forward. So Tim, I think you're on.
Thank you, Elise. My name is Tim Fryatt from Marvel Architects, and I'd like to thank Chair Carroll, commissioners, and LPC staff for the opportunity to present these changes to you on 29 J Street in Brooklyn on behalf of Edward J. Minskoff Equities. I'm going to move quickly. Feel free at any time to weigh in with questions. with that, let's get started. The building, just to remind you of its location, is in the Dumbo Historic District at the corner of Plymouth and J. Can you all see my mouse moving okay? Okay. So here we are, the blue square at the corner of Plymouth and J. A couple things to note in this aerial image. There's a lot of variation in height in the district buildings, and a lot of activity on the rooftops, both in terms of occupied use, mechanical spaces, and tanks and billboards, all sorts of things that help to really make a lively roofscape in the district as one crosses the bridges from above. Very visible and active roofscape. Continuing on, this is the existing warehouse built in 75 to 77, deemed non-contributing, that the ownership intends to demolish to build a new commercial building. Just very briefly, the table of contents is grouped into two main sections, the facade and the roof. And I'm gonna, in the next slide, just walk through quickly 7 main changes that we are proposing. The first being GFRC joints that are added along the spandrels of the panels. The second is window cleaning anchors that are added basically every 3 floors and at every bay. The third being the 1'6" added to the storefront height, which increases the overall building height. The fourth is a loading dock door height is increased, and that changes the architecture a little bit at that location. The fifth being a column of operable windows along the Plymouth Street facade. The sixth being 4 window bays. On the Plymouth Street, they already have 4, but we're proposing that the J Street facade match that 4 window bay, and more on that to come as well. And then the final is the proposed changes to the bulkhead massing. So we're going to go in detail through each of those. And I would go a step forward from Lisa's comments to say that we believe all of these changes are improvements to the building. We've worked hard to ensure that consistent with the intent of the 2018 landmarks hearing approval, and hope that you find the same. I'm going to continue forward into the facade section. Just a little bit of context, history, to share again our inspiration from the district is primarily these cast in place concrete GARE buildings, which both in terms of materiality and proportions, the large street wall, and specific to the presentation today, I'd like to point out the very tall storefronts, which is something that is often seen in the district. And there's a lot of rooftop activity, let's say, from billboards to decorative parapets. One Main Street even has a clock. So there's a lot of activity on the roofs in the district buildings. This is the approved 2018 approved rendering, which is at the corner of J, which is going north to the left of the image, and then Plymouth Street, which is extending to the east at the right. So this is the primary visual corner. In the proposed view, you'll note very, very few changes. I'd like to point out that the GFRC, which is the solid, cream colored concrete here, has not changed its dimensions. That was a big discussion and improvement that we made after meeting with you initially in September of 2018 and then returning in November to increase the robust and muscular quality of the building by reducing the amount of glazing. That remains unchanged. Here, I'm going to just advance one slide highlighting the changes. So we can see here on the J Street facade, we now have 4 windows per bay, which is the same as on Plymouth. There's the column of slider windows above the commercial entry, which is now relocated onto Plymouth. All retail entries along J, which is the primarily active pedestrian street. You can also just see at the eastern end of Plymouth, the raised loading dock door, and then the joints at the GFRC spandrels. Finally, at the bottom here, I'm just noting the 12'9" average storefront height. I say average because the sidewalk does slope from the eastern edge of Plymouth Street down to the northern edge of J considerably. So just advancing to the couple of colorized elevation at the storefront level. This is on J Street. The approved is always on the top, the proposed always on the bottom. You'll see that there are some minor modifications to the doors, as Elise noted, that we're handling at staff level. The big proposed change here is the addition in height. We want to lift the second floor elevation up by 1'6", so from 16 feet to 17.6, so that the overall storefront opening, which again varies by slope. So here you got 15'3½", 13'6" at that main corner, which is consistent with we did a little study in the appendix of storefronts in the district, and the average height is about 13'6" to 14 feet. Obviously with variations, some higher and some lower, but the average is about 13'6" to 14 feet. So this puts us at the corner consistent with other historic district buildings. Moving ahead, this is now the western side of the Plymouth Street elevation. So the corner of the building now is on the left side. There's a door that's been added. This is the commercial entry door with its larger awning in the middle 3 bays. There's a break line here, so we'll see the rest of this elevation in the next slide. Again, approved above, proposed below. The only major change here that we're asking of the commissioners is for the additional height in the storefront, which we think creates a more grand identity to the public sphere. We think it's a strong planning move to contribute to the height of these rather narrow district streets. Moving ahead one slide, now we see the remainder of the Plymouth Street elevation. Again, here's that break line. The previous page showed the elevations over here. So this is the easternmost section at the grade level of the Plymouth Street facade. The approved, we had a 9'3" door, which was not compliant with zoning. We actually need a 12-foot door. So along with the additional height of 1'6" and a change in the spandrel from GFRC to metal in this one bay, which is a architectural strategy consistent in other buildings in the district, we're now able to achieve a compliant loading dock door. I'd also just point out on the left bay here, which is changed from glass to a solid wall. We have a bike room, a gas room, and a water service room, which we, for best resiliency practices, have moved out of the cellar, which is below the floodplain. So they are now at street level, but we obviously don't want to see into those service rooms. So that is now a solid textured metal panel wall that has the same kind of dark green painted finish as per the rest of the metal work in the building as approved. Continuing on, taking a look at that 1'6" additional height in the larger context of the Plymouth Street elevation. We originally set the building height at 148 feet total, which was below our as of right in zoning, and also very deliberately and specifically below the cornice line of 20J across the street. We felt it by 5 foot 5 inches. We felt it was important to have some deference to that building. Moving ahead one slide, we see that we still are below that cornice line by 3 foot 11. So we think it's that additional 1'6" is a modest increase in height. Again, we're still below our as of right height. All of the renderings that you'll see coming forward in the presentation show this additional height, so you can consider it in better context. Continuing to move on into the GFRC joints issue. Just a few notes before I show you what these look like. As we've continued to engineer the project, we're finding that there's some real limitations to get a full length spandrel, which, you know, at 25 feet is a considerable piece. The manufacturers that we've been speaking with are insistent that over 20 feet is really not recommended. And that's by the PCI recommended practices, GFRC manual, because of the amount of breakage and cracking that will result during transportation and installation. The excessive weight of those panels would also require a site crane, which our partners in the project, Siami, has advised, based on their experience, is really unlikely to be approved by the city for a prolonged period because the streets are so tight here. So there's some logistical concerns. And then the larger panels being thicker will have less, has a higher likelihood to crack over time because of the thermal stresses. So the smaller pieces that we're proposing would add 2 joints per spandrel. Those joints are going to vary from 1 foot, I'm sorry, 1/2 an inch to 3/4 of an inch. And I can show you exactly where. This is a detail through that joint. There's a relatively flush sealant that we do our best to match the color and finish of the GFRC itself. I'm going to show a couple of precedent projects from the Siami team that they've completed recently. This one at 335 Madison Avenue. You know, the joints are noticeable up close. I think as you move back in space, they become less noticeable. These joints were 9/16. At another precedent at the Columbia University Medical Center, the joints are on a staggered pattern, so they're a little more noticeable. But then again, from a distance, as you back up, the joints, I think, become less noticeable and really just look like you know, board form concrete or something of that nature. All materials, even monolithic, have some bit of joints to them. I think we're moving into the typical elevation bays. This is the approved J Street elevation with its, notice it's got 5 window bays. The proposed now has 4 more on that to come. I'll describe a little bit more why. The other, now we can see the spandrel joints. We're proposing to make 3 pieces. So there's 2 additional joints per spandrel. We also have a very subtle kind of geometry change, which I'll describe a little bit more in an upcoming rendering. Here's the proposed Plymouth Street elevation detail as approved, and then the proposed, again, it's the same 2 changes. When we look at them all together in this slide, the approved being in the left column, the proposed on the right, Plymouth Street being on the top row, and J Street on the bottom row. The big changes are on the J Street side. We're going from 5 window bays to 4 window bays. And that really is because we've lost a little bit of dimension. We were at 26'9", and those 3 bays on J Street are now closer to 25 feet. And that's for a few reasons. One is because there's a pretty significant encroachment of the existing adjacent building to our north at 25J that has reduced the overall finished facade dimension. Another was frankly just because of the labeling error that we had on our drawing. So we didn't have the dimension that we assumed when we presented to you last time. As you go down to 25 feet, if you were to maintain the 5 bays, the intent was always to have the window proportions match on both sides. So as the J Street side, the windows have gotten slightly smaller. To match the proportions to the Plymouth Street side really suggests that we have to go to 4 window bays to make that to make it look consistent. So the window change we think is very much in keeping with the spirit of the approval. And then the other thing I want to point out here in terms of the geometry, I told you I'd have a rendering. This is looking up a detailed view at the faceted GFRC skin as approved. And the proposed version gets a little bit deeper because of this one singular point. It repeats in each bay. It's at the lower left-hand corner, which we've pulled out away from the windows a little bit. And that has 2 benefits for us. One is that we are able to slope the windowsill a little more so we get a better positive drainage and discourage bird loitering. And 2, it gives us a little more depth in these facets, which we feel contributes to the kind of muscular, robust look. So if I were to just go back, oops, sorry, I went too far. One, you see it's slightly flatter in appearance, and it gets a little more accentuation from that move. So that's the GFRC adjustments. The next item up is the operable windows on Plymouth Street. These windows are of significant size, 9 feet by 5'9". What we'd like to do, and this is, been inspired by considerations of best practices in our new COVID society. The importance of natural ventilation is undeniable. The idea of opening up large sections of windows to the commercial interior has a lot of benefits in health and wellness for the inhabitants. So we believe that we can achieve this with sliding window panes, oversized sliding window panes. It does make for a slightly thicker window frame. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can go back. So it's a slightly thicker window sash. There also is a interior glass rail. So when I go to the open section, you can see that there's that interior glass rail. But otherwise, it's very much subtle, and we think doesn't significantly impact the view. As I noted, it's only on this one column of windows on the Plymouth Street side. It's centered in the 5 bays. So there's a certain logic to it, and it's also directly above the commercial entry and awning. So there's a symmetry that we appreciate there. And I also point out that there's a history of large openings in the district of missing windows that were used for hoisting materials up into these warehouse buildings. So there's a kind of fun historic tie that we would like to point out as well. So again, you looking at the overall view, it's relatively subtle. There is no, it doesn't change the overall window fenestration. You'll just see a little bit of a shadow line at those center panels, and a little bit of a shadow line of the interior glass railing beyond it. But set back from a distance, I think it's going to look very consistent with the other windows. The final thing to point out on the facade before I get to the roof is the window washing anchors. These are important in any Class A office building, that there's a mechanism to clean the windows. In this case, there would be a temporary davit system at the roof where you suspend a carriage, and for safety, they need to anchor their lines as they go, so that there's nothing permanent at the roof, but these anchor points, which you see are highlighted in blue, and don't be confused by the blue. I've made those look like they're 3 feet in diameter, but in fact they're really 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and they project about 3/4 of an inch. So here's an image of one with a clip on it. This is the clip that the window washer is attached to it. It's a very small little metal stud. And again, here we think there's historic precedent in terms of masonry brick ties of having little metal hardware pieces attached to masonry. We think it's best attached to the GFRC for access and to limit the amount of them. So it's a small detail, but we want to show you every proposed change, and that's one of them. Moving into the roof and the bulkhead changes. I want to just start by pointing out that the historic, these are all historic photographs in the district. There's always been a lot of rooftop equipment and character to this working waterfront, and that's still true today. In the past, we see water tanks, smokestacks, boilers, signage, piping, all sorts of equipment, as you can witness in these photographs. And while the types of equipment and massings have changed, the pragmatic and functional aspect to this skyline fringe is really consistent today, and collectively creates a district identity that we think still celebrates its working waterfront status. So and as I mentioned before, its visibility from the bridges at that upper level, and as you'll see in some of the renderings going forward, there's a lot of rooftop. There's a lot of stuff on the roofs of these buildings already. So I just wanted to preface this conversation about the rooftop changes that we're proposing with that history. a couple of slides, if I could, just with text, if I could, to describe the nature of the changes and why we're here with these changes today. The approved mechanical system that we had was an air-cooled VRF system that had a exterior condenser farm. It's really was unworkable. That was something that the previous owner was interested in pursuing, but it's a very atypical system. In fact, it's only being used in one other commercial building in New York City, and it works around its inefficiencies by having VRF units attached to the facade on every level, which obviously would be incompatible in any historic district to burden a facade with mechanical equipment. It also takes up a lot of interior square footage per floor. So it's really, the other thing is that it used gas-fired heating of fresh air, which is really not in compliance with the intent of the new local law 97. So the Climate Mobilization Act of 2019 has a goal to reduce overall carbon emissions by 80% by 2050. That happens over 2 phases. The first phase is, really affects how we think about our building HVAC systems and how we can reduce fossil fuel burning appliances and implement new technologies as they come online for the second phase to further decrease the amount of fossil fuels that we're putting into the environment. So a VRF HVAC system may comply with that, but it won't in the second phase. So it really makes sense to make the transition now and prepare for that future technology with a water-cooled VRF system, which is what we are proposing. This meets the requirements of Local Law 97 and in the first phase, and then prepares us to transition over as those new electric technologies come online in the next 10 years, hopefully by 2030, which is when the next phase starts, with electric air-cooled water heating equipment technology. So there's gas-fired boilers on day one, and then it transitions to electric in the future. So the big change in the system is it requires a cooling tower, water-cooled VRF units indoors on each floor, which eliminates the inefficiencies of the roof-mounted system. And the ventilation equipment is somewhat different. It changes the size of the bulkhead is the bottom line here. The equipment is slightly larger, as is often the case with new technologies that are more sophisticated, but is still within our zoning right envelope. So looking back at the approved roof, there was a relatively small bulkhead in plan. If I can get my mouse to work. Well, my mouse appears stuck, but there was an exterior mechanical area surrounded by a fence, and then an enclosed bulkhead area that's about 40 by 55, and this was 33 feet tall. What we're proposing now, the enclosed area gets larger. The height actually of that enclosed area gets a little smaller. It's now 26'7". But once you add the screen fence on the roof of that for the cooling tower, it ends up back at 33 feet total. So the height is shorter for the main part of the bulk, but at its smallest point at the upper section of the bulkhead roof plan, there's a fence around that cooling tower that then brings it back up to the approved height. On the left side, there's an ATS room and then a generator, which also we've relocated from the cellar, again, for resiliency reasons. So this is the proposed bulkhead. Just to tell you a little bit about the materials, and then I'll move into the rendering so you can see how it appears. We're proposing a aluminum panel system. very minimal kind of detailed system. The idea here is that the panels will really pick up the color of the sky without mirroring the sky. So it's almost like a brushed kind of aluminum look, both for the louvers and for the panels itself. So we're trying to somewhat camouflage it. It's going to be a quiet presence on the roof. I'm going to walk through a series of renderings now showing all of these changes, but focused largely on the bulkhead and the rooftop changes, because those are just in terms of visibility from around the district. And I want to say at the beginning that we conducted some additional views to really make sure that we were covering every possible view shed. The tight streets lead to very select kind of visibility corridors, and we discovered a few points that we had not presented to you previously. So the new renderings are all indicated in a blue note on the upper right, meaning they were not included in the 2018 approval. So if you see that note, this is a new rendering that we're adding. This was just a massing view previously. Now we've created it as a rendering so you can get a better idea of how it sits. So starting with this bridge view, again, I'm going to just point out, 20J has a billboard, it has a water tower, and it has some outdoor use with plants. So there's a lot of activity there. In the foreground, there are still some platforms for long gone water towers. And I'll also point out here that there is a new rooftop addition presently in construction for 42-50 J Street. I think also known as 168 Plymouth, that you've seen already and approved, and that's under construction at this site. So that's gonna, from this view, which is taken from the Manhattan Bridge, is gonna partially obscure our building. So here's the approved, and then here's the proposed. So from this distance, there is an increase in bulkhead mass, but it's still rather de minimis in the context. Here's the J Street looking north. So we're significantly to the south. There's always a key plan in the lower right showing the location with a red arrow where we're looking. So we're looking up across Water Street and down to Plymouth. Here's the approved version. Here's the proposed. Very little change in this view. On the moving a little closer, a little further north towards our building, but still on J Street, we see the approved. And I should also mention, I think I neglected to mention previously, the interior diagonals these are inside the glazing. Those were necessary when it was a steel framed building. The new ownership has transitioned us to a concrete framed building, which is more consistent with the district and permits additional ceiling height and gives us an interior look that's more consistent and desirable for the neighborhood. So the interior diagonals are omitted. Otherwise, there's really no difference in this view. Moving a little closer, and this is one of these new renderings that we found. There's about a 40-foot stretch if you're on the west side of J Street, where you get a little more visibility of that bulkhead. So here's the approved bulkhead in the approved view. Here's the proposed view. You see we gain a 1'6" in height, and then you see the bulkhead is shifted a little bit to the west. So there's not much of a difference in the bulkhead in that view. In the view from Brookwood Bridge Park, and this is just outside of the district, mind you, the district line being here in red in the key plan, but nonetheless an important pedestrian access point back to the city. It's unfortunate if one must steer their eyes away from the Con Ed substation that still resides here, but nonetheless, it's a popular walkway. So we've offered this rendering. This is the approved version. and the proposed. So we're gaining 1'6" in height. And then the bulkhead presents itself to have a larger mass, but we still think is because of the variation in the faces on this facade, it's really doesn't become a prominent feature of the building. Along John Street, there's no changes. You've seen this view before. It doesn't change in the proposed scheme, but stepping closer, there is a view where you do have, you can see above the adjacent buildings. This would be the approved version, and here's the proposed. So we're calling these views both along John Street and along Plymouth Street secondary, because for one, you're looking at the lot line facades, not the primary street facades over other buildings. And there's also much less pedestrian traffic and activity in these areas as opposed to J Street and Plymouth Street to the west. So the bulkhead presents itself a little bit more from the secondary views, but not at all from the primary views. Here's another secondary view from the east on Plymouth Street. It really doesn't change from this vantage point because of the building that's in the foreground. So there's no proposed, so you don't see the difference. However, if you step forward, there's again a small stretch. I think this one was 60 feet along the western side of the sidewalk before you get too close, and then it's lost behind 185J. There is a small window along the sidewalk where you can see the eastern facade, which has windows, and the bulkhead. And the proposed version, we've needed to lose some windows there, and the bulkhead presents itself as taller, although it's really not taller, it's just a little closer to the lot line. From the west on Plymouth Street, looking back east, so our building now is right here. There is no difference in this view. We're now at Pearl and Plymouth Street. As we walk a little closer to that intersection, here's the approved and proposed. Again, there's no bulkhead visibility here. We're just showing the difference in terms of the overall 1'6" building height. This is a view now from John Street and J Street, looking south along J Street, and there's no change in that view. But if we expand the view a little bit more, so this is a same view, but just we've cropped to the left a little more. You do see an additional section of the bulkhead just up there behind, set back behind that lot line. We also kind of move then slightly more south. So we've crossed the street on John, or no, we're still on the north side of John, but we're a little bit more to the west. So you're looking obliquely up J Street. Approved and proposed, again, no bulkhead visibility here. The only change being the 5 to 4 windows. So that really concludes my presentation. I do have, if helpful, some some exterior elevations and other materials in the appendix should they be necessary for questions, but I'd like at this point to turn it back over to you for a discussion.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your presentation. And I think we have some questions, so we'll get right into that. Commissioner Goldblum, please go ahead.
Hi. The bulkhead, is the wall around the mechanical spaces on the roof, is that for sound or for aesthetics or for some other code compliance reason?
Yes, sir. Both. Primarily for sound reasons, but we are required by zoning to screen rooftop mechanical uses.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Jefferson, please go ahead.
it's a very handsome facade. I have one question. The issue of staining, and do you perceive the staining at all, or do you or don't see without drip edges? You don't see any possibility of staining, or how are you thinking about staining?
Thank you, sir. That's a very astute comment and one that we're paying very close attention to. How a building weathers is as important to us, on day one as in 20 years. So we're very careful. That's why we're adjusting that facade just slightly so we get a little more pitch where we need it. We have drip edges on vertical, on over vertical surfaces or horizontal surfaces underneath. Excuse me, let me go back to this view. So at the heads, right, there'll be a small drip edge here. So everything that you can imagine water is going to wash down, the GFRC performs very well and self-cleans really in rain. It may over time accumulate some because there is a bit of coarse texture to the material, like concrete. It will feel sort of like sandpaper, but it can be easily washed. GFRC is really widely used because of its durability over time. Where it fails the test of weathering is when you're in a spot where it doesn't wash itself. So really that just means it's not exposed to rain at those window heads. And that is 100% satisfied by having a drip edge. And it really doesn't have the opportunity to accumulate any soot or dirt. So we're paying close attention to that to ensure that it looks beautiful from day one and well on into the future.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, not seeing questions at this time. This is a public meeting item, as the general building design has already been approved by the commission, and the applicants have come back with some revisions. And many of these revisions are minor in that, and could have, on their own, each might have been eligible for a staff level amendment, not all of them, but some of them. But cumulatively, there were enough changes that we are presenting all of them to you, so you can look at them comprehensively and determine whether or not they're in keeping with the intent of the original approval. So that will be the focus of our discussion, and there is no public meeting today, a public hearing and testimony today, because it is a public meeting item. But we, as always, welcome written comments on public meeting items. So I just want to turn to Rich before our discussion to see if we have any written comments that have been submitted. Rich?
Don't have any additional written comments on this application.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so if there are no final questions, then I think we should move to our discussion. And okay, not seeing any hands raised, I think we'll go ahead and maybe as a nearby resident, we can start with Vice Chair Bland. Would you like to start the discussion?
Sure. I think the emphasis here is on minor changes. The basic building is unchanged. We went through a couple of hearings at least on getting it to be where it is. So I think the changes that have been suggested today by the applicant are actual, as he said, improvements. I think the thicker windows at the line of windows at the entry door actually would be enhanced to have all the windows a bit thicker. But that said, I think the rest of it is fine. I think seeing the bulkhead a little differently than we were seeing it is fine. So I'm comfortable with these changes. It continues to be an appropriate addition to Dumbo.
Okay, thank you. All right, and Commissioner Chen?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. No, I think that this is an improvement. I commend the applicant and the architect for its thorough presentation and the thoughtfulness and the detailing, and to think through the whole life cycle of a building. Very few, it's a sign of a good architect to think about how a building will weather. And so I think this is very approvable.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Devonshire. You can just accept the unmute. There you go.
I think the changes are appropriate and it's approvable as is.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Goldblum.
Thank you. I agree that in general, the building has gotten better. I do miss the diagonal bracing, which I thought added an interesting scale to it, but I think it's okay without it. I think that the change in the windows from 5 to 4 along the one side is okay. I think the anchors, the joints are all fine. The only thing that I do have a bit of a concern with is if you go to page 59 out of 90, the side view of the party wall there. Oop, that one. That just struck me as a very prominent facade that had kind of gotten a lot less relief to it, and I would just say, and that where the bulkhead becomes dramatically more visible. If you look at the images that he showed of rooftop accretions in the district, they're not quite that monolithic unless they're meant to be part of the design, like the clock tower. So I would just suggest they work with staff on maybe adding texture, adding some variation, something to break it up a little bit. And I think that would probably benefit the bulkhead in general if there were some way to give it a little bit of depth or variation to make it seem a little less monolithic.
Okay, great. And Commissioner Chapin?
I agree with Commissioner Goldblum. I think everything about the project in general, I'm fine with the changes that have been made. And the only thing that's a little troubling is the bulkheads, sort of, in a couple of contexts, very, massive appearance. And it's because it doesn't look so much like typical rooftop accretion. So if it could be broken up a bit in any way that could be achieved, it doesn't necessarily have to be separate pieces, but as he was suggesting, perhaps textural changes or, a few modifications just to make it look like it's not one just massive piece of addition to the building. And that's my only like a comment or concern about the project. I think otherwise it's very approvable.
Commissioner Holford Smith?
I think the changes are all actually an improvement, as some people have said already. And I agree with Commissioner Goldblum and Chapin that especially this view of the bulkhead is a little overpowering. I don't know if it's possible to push the bulkhead further back from the edge of the roof or do something to break down its scale, but I would think they could work with staff to do that.
Okay. Commissioner Shamir Baron? I believe she has stepped out, so she's not here. So we'll go to Commissioner Gustafson.
I had two issues with this in the beginning. One was the operable windows, but I was convinced by the presentation's focus on how buildings in this neighborhood have used those open windows for hoists and the like. So I'm okay with that. I thank Michael for actually finding the point. I was trying to get my finger on why I didn't like the bulkhead, and I think it's because in my eyes, the appropriateness of a bulkhead usually sort of falls in the category of it's something that you expect to see in that neighborhood, and its problem is it's not contextual because it is monolithic. And so if there's anything they can do in that regard, I think that would be a solution. I don't mind the idea of moving it a little bit away from that facade as well. Okay. Otherwise, completely appropriate.
Great. And Commissioner Jefferson.
the issue of the bulkhead, I think by having a cap on it, make it less abstract. I mean, this is an abstract modern building, so just make it modern and make the cap, remove the cap. And texture would be good if they work it out. I think everything else is very appropriate.
Okay. And Commissioner Lutfi.
I agree with what my fellow commissioners have been saying. The building has gotten better. It's great that it's meeting the new local laws and addressing important environmental issues, as well as addressing what the building is, how the building is going to wear long term. I do think that the bulkhead should be looked at with the staff.
Okay. All right. So I think we have a consensus to approve with the condition that the applicant continue to study the texture and articulation at the bulkhead and that actually the party wall below it in consultation with the staff. And so I'll go ahead and make this motion. So in the matter of docket number LPC 20-11073, 29 to 37 J Street in the Dumbo Historic District, a warehouse built in 1975 to 1977. This is an application to amend the plans for a new building approved at the public meeting of November 13th, 2018. And I note that roofscapes of the district include a wide array of rooftop accretions, including some that are substantial in terms of size and visibility. And I recommend approval with modifications, finding that increasing the height of the previously approved new building by 18 inches will result in an overall height that is still consistent with the height of the historic buildings in the streetscape, which range from 5 to 12 stories, and that the building will still be deferential to the historic building at 20 J Street across the street, that the additional height will be incorporated within the ground story, and the adjusted proportions of the base of the building, including the storefronts, will be harmonious with the overall design, that the enlargement of a loading bay on the Plymouth Street facade and the installation of associated roll-down gates and solid metal infill in 2 bays is consistent with the industrial character of the streetscape, that due to on-site construction and engineering limitations, the previously approved monolithic GFRC spandrel panels cannot be installed, and that the proposed subdivision into 3 units will be difficult to proceed because of the color matched joints with aggregate, that the installation of stainless steel window washing anchors at the interface of the piers and floor plates will not disrupt the rhythm of the faceted facade, that the change in configuration and operation of the windows will evoke historic windows found at other industrial facades in this district, that the 4-part windows at J Street will better harmonize with the 4-part windows on the Plymouth Street facade, and that given the scale of the building and narrowness of the surrounding streets, the large rooftop mechanical bulkhead, which is primarily visible from the bridge and the waterfront and over secondary facades, will be in keeping with the presence of large visible rooftop accretions characteristic of buildings in this industrial historic district, that the metal panels and louvers of the mechanical bulkhead and screening fence will have a neutral gray finish, thereby causing the installation to recede from view, and that the large bulkhead will accommodate space to screen future technology needed to comply with changes in the building code. However, I find that the monolithic quality and lack of articulation and texture of the bulkhead and the party wall are inconsistent with the character of the historic district, and therefore recommend that these surfaces, that the articulation and texture of these surfaces be restudied in consultation with the staff. Okay, Commissioner Goldblum, will you second that motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you. And Rich, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Shamir Barron. Not back yet. Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi,
Aye.
Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
Okay, with 10 in favor and 1 abstained, motion carries.
Okay, that's approved with that condition. Thank you. And we'll move
Thank
to
you.
the next public meeting items.
Thank you very much.
All right, commissioners, we are moving to 3 Rockefeller Center items, 2 of which will be presented together, and I will read them into the record, and the third is separate for the interior of one of the buildings. So item number 3 is docket number 20-09274, 600 Fifth Avenue, the Manufacturers Hanover Trust Company Building, an individual landmark in the borough of Manhattan, block 1264, lot 30. It's an application for a certificate of appropriateness. An office building designed by Carson and London and built in 1950 to 52 as part of an Art Deco style office, commercial, and entertainment complex. The application is to install light fixtures, and this was read into the record on June 23rd, 2020. And then we're also doing 610 Fifth Avenue, I'm sorry, docket number 20-09273, 610 Fifth Avenue, 620 Fifth Avenue, 626 to 636 Fifth Avenue, 1 Rockefeller Plaza, 10 Rockefeller Plaza, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, 50 Rockefeller Plaza, 1230 Avenue of the Americas, 1250 Avenue of the Americas, and 1270 Avenue of the Americas, Rockefeller Center individual landmark, borough of Manhattan, multiple blocks and lots. 12 office buildings, including La Maison Française, the British Building, Palazzo d'Italia, Institutional Building, the International Building North, 1 Rockefeller Plaza Building, 10 Rockefeller Plaza Building, the RCA Building, the Associated Press Building, the Simon & Schuster Building, RCA Building West, and 1270 Avenue of the Americas Building, and a pedestrian garden corridor and plaza designed by a consortium of architects known as the Associated Architects, with portions designed by a group of fine artists built in 1931 to 34 and 36 to 39, and 1954 to 55 as parts of an Art Deco style office, commercial, and entertainment complex. And the application is to install light fixtures. That was also read into the record June 23rd, 2020.
Okay, and the applicants have joined the meeting. Please state your name for the record. Click on the screen to control the slides, and you may begin after the motion opens.
Okay, and just before the applicants speak, because this is technically a public meeting item, even though it is being heard for the first time and we'll be taking testimony, we do need to open the proceedings. So Commissioner Gustafson, can I have a motion to open the proceedings?
So moved.
And Commissioner Devonshire, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the proceedings are open and the applicants may continue.
Very good. Thank you. This is Cass Stackelberg of Higgins, Quays, Barth and Partners. I'm here this afternoon with Michael Gabellini of Gabellini Shepherd Architects, Andressa Lopez of Cooley Minato, the lighting designer, and E.B. Kelly of Tishman Spire. Before I take you through the design presentation, E.B., I think would like to just do a brief introduction, and then we'll run through the presentation.
Terrific. Thank you, Kaz. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me begin just by saying thank you for all the time together reviewing our proposals over the last 2 months. I know you have seen quite a bit of us on the Rockefeller Center team recently, and I promise that with a successful resolution today, you'll enjoy a little bit of a break from us. Today, we are here to present a selection of lighting enhancements across Rockefeller Center to highlight the art and the beautiful building exteriors. This work is fundamental to our overarching goals of making a great urban campus, serving New Yorkers, and highlighting the incredible details around the center. The lighting proposals to be discussed today are emblematic of everything that we seek to do in our stewardship of the center, shining a light, both literally and figuratively, on the features that make Rockefeller Center the remarkable place that it is. Those of us who have the good fortune to come to work at the center every day may have grown accustomed to walking by pieces like the Noguchi sculpture at 50 Rock and Wisdom at 30 Rock. But it's our job to highlight those pieces for New Yorkers to see as they come to Rockefeller Center for an evening stroll, for outdoor dining, or simply just to enjoy this great public realm. The lighting recommendations here are intended to help maintain the magic of this really extraordinary place, and we hope you will agree. Now I'll happily turn this back over to Cass to walk us through it.
Great. Thank you, Evie. So we see this as really as a remarkable opportunity to highlight what is basically an outdoor museum here at Rockefeller Center. The artwork and its planning was an integral part of the center's formation and creation as a urban civic center. And in 1931, some of you may know, John D. Rockefeller allocated $1 million, those were Depression era dollars, to this art program. And eventually 40 different artists would participate in the program, creating more than 100 artworks, both across the building's exteriors, but also within many of the prominent interior building lobbies. Best known perhaps are Paul Manship's Prometheus and Lee Lowry's Atlas, but there are many other works that are highly significant, primarily at building entries that, as Evie said, really need to be highlighted. They're apparent during the day, but in the evening hours, really, as you'll see in our presentation, really are lost. And the effort here is to, in a subtle and thoughtful way, to accentuate those and make them visible to the public. This is all sort of integrated into the public realm proposals that we've been sharing with you since April. And as Evie said, this is the third and final package as part of this sort of comprehensive and holistic approach. I'll just say that, you know, as we endeavored to start this effort with Cooley Minata and Gabellini Shepherd, we really sort of had three guiding principles. One is that the installations of the light fixtures really should not involve the removal of any historic fabric. And as additive features, these really are all reversible, fully reversible additions. As well, any fixtures should be chosen in a way that minimizes their visibility from the public way, and to use the existing architectural elements to hide them, and to use the current technologies to rely on the smallest fixtures available. And then finally, just generally, to achieve the lighting effect with the most minimal visual effect. And so hopefully as you go through and see this presentation, you will hopefully agree that we've arrived at those three main guiding principles. As I mentioned, the center is you know, blessed with these installations. There are sort of mythological and symbolic themes. We know Prometheus and Atlas. There were formal themes that were developed by Rockefeller and the Art Committee of New Frontiers and the March of Civilization. There are themes of internationalism, technological advances highlighting radio and television, and of course transportation, all sort of integrated into the program. They add relief to the base of the buildings, and also provide a bit of sort of human scale to these massive buildings. So beginning with the site plan, what we've prepared here is a site plan of the complex, just highlighting where the artwork positions are throughout the center. What you'll see is they really do focus on building entries. And the largest dots here, Wisdom, Sound and Light at the entrance of 30 Rockefeller Plaza, the Noguchi sculpture at 50 Rockefeller Plaza, Atlas here, Atlas Court, and Paul Manship. These are the primary installations, but they are scattered throughout the center. And they're used as wayfinding as well, because many of them actually highlight main entries to the buildings. What is the problem? The problem that we're hoping to solve for? These are some recent photographs. Atlas Court looking from with your back to St. Patrick's on the left, looking across the sunken plaza at the entry to 30 Rockefeller Plaza. And then these sort of typical side entries, this is 45 Rockefeller Plaza. The artwork on the left and middle really are lost. And then on the right, over these main entries on the secondary elevations, there are carved panels above the entries, but because of the intensity of the flanking sconces, these are completely lost in the evening. So that's something that we have been looking to address. As well as sort of more architectural lighting. You can see the intensity of the sconces here on the lower left, but the other issue that we're looking to address is the sort of inconsistent color temperatures of the lights that you can see here. And then these very intense downlights set at the 4th floor or the 6th, 7th floor of the setbacks that provide a bit of a glare. And by raising that lighting up to the higher elevations on these setbacks, we're able to create a more even glow and take that intense lighting out of the line of sight. So a few diagrammatic elevations just to share with you sort of how we're approaching this. And again, the idea is to provide lighting at a pedestrian scale, at the base of the buildings, sort of not building lighting, but really focusing on the artwork at the base of the building. So this is a section looking across the Rockefeller Plaza elevations of 10 Rockefeller Plaza, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, and 50 Rockefeller Plaza. And again, it's highlighting the entries, improving the lighting. I'll also add that there are a number of fixtures shown in these diagrams that you cannot see, and we're working with the staff on those, but we've included them in this presentation so you can get a sense of the sort of overall effect and the overall approach that we're taking. Again, a 5th Avenue elevation beginning 600 5th, and then the international buildings to the north. This has a sort of more ceremonial effect. There's artwork at the base and the main historic entries, as well as on the upper registers of the international buildings that we intend to highlight. And then elsewhere on some of the side streets, again, sort of the base of 30 Rock, Radio City Music Hall, again, highlighting the pedestrian scale. And then across the 6th Avenue elevation of the center, similar, some lighting up at the flagpole level just to sort of illuminate those features on the upper portions of the facade. As I mentioned, we are working with the staff on a number of lighting installations, but just to give you a sense, there are cornice levels and reveals where we're able to install very small fixtures. This fixture here is a 1x1 fixture set up on a shelf here that one won't see from the surrounding streets. Other architectural features will hide that same fixture to provide some uplighting at the base of these buildings. Similarly, there are architectural grills like these at Radio City, where we're hiding very, very small fixtures behind the grills that one won't see, but that will add some visual interest in highlighting this really beautiful metalwork in the evenings. Similarly, sconces are used throughout the center. These are all currently downlights. There's a way to adapt these and retrofit the sconces to allow, as you can see in these images here, uplighting and downlighting situated within the existing housing of these sconces. So no need to make them larger, but just to retrofit them to provide a bit more accent lighting. And then flagpoles, which are seen throughout the center, very small fixtures at the base attached to illuminate the flagpoles, as I said, seen around the center. So we're working with the staff on this kind of treatment as well, using existing architectural features to uplight artwork here with very small fixtures on the roof of these marquees at 30 Rock, and then as well in-ground lighting and planter lighting as well to highlight other areas. So we're looking to minimize the fixtures that that one might see wherever we can, and working with the staff on those elements. So what we'd like to do is sort of begin by sharing the prominent building entries, and these are sort of three prominent entries and then one typical entry on 5th. So 30 Rockefeller Plaza, 45 Rockefeller Plaza, 50 Rock, and then the 5th Avenue International buildings. And I'll take you through this. I'll try and do this as a measured pace, and we can always come back and talk about details. So an existing photo on the left and a rendered view on the right, where you really just don't see the fixtures in this view on the right. And then an evening view. So in the evenings, this cast glass at the entry is backlit, and one can see this, but wisdom, sound, and light are really completely in shadow. So the idea is to introduce fixtures behind these major piers to uplight here, and also introduce in-ground lighting to highlight the piers and the artwork, so that the cast glass at the entry is always illuminated and visible, but also the artwork on the exterior as well is highlighted. And how we do that is by installing these small fixtures only a few inches. You can see in this zoom photo behind the pier to illuminate the sculptures here at those three portals. And then these red elements here indicate the in-ground lighting, which you can see here in a rendered view and a section. This is just a 3 or 4 inch fixture set into the paving. All of this paving dates to the 2000 upgrades to the walking areas around the center. So this is a sort of typical detail that we use in a few different locations. Similarly, at Atlas Court, in the evening, right now, there are a few uplights within the base of Atlas. What we're looking to do is integrate some additional uplighting within the base, integrate some downlighting, and then also accentuate this cornice line with the fixtures that I had shared with you just a moment ago. So how we do that, some downlights with a 4 inch projecting shield and a 2 inch face high up on these piers to downlight these piers, and then using the existing sculpture base, we're relamping the fixtures that are within the base, adding a 1 inch by 1 inch fixture just along that edge to bring a little definition to the base. And that allows us to highlight that, that highly significant sculpture. Looking at Isamu Noguchi's news sculpture, which graced the entry of the historic Associated Press building, you see it in the daytime, and in the evening, a view on the left, it goes completely dark. So in a combination of hidden fixtures within louvers on the returns and point lighting from the 10th floor of the building across Rockefeller Plaza, we're able to achieve this effect. And how we do that is by setting, again, a 1 inch by 1 inch fixture within this louvered panel seen in section here. That fixture will be completely hidden. And then from across the plaza, attaching fixtures to the parapets of 45 Rockefeller Plaza across the plaza up at the 10th floor to point down and illuminate the center portion of the Noguchi sculpture. Looking at Fifth Avenue, again, the international buildings all have a very typical and similar treatment where there's a major sculpture at the entrance. This is photographs of the British Empire building. As an example, but these are all sort of typical details for the other international buildings. And a rendered view on the right, just illustrating the illumination of these beautiful bronze panels above the entry, the shield here above the portal, and then other elements uplighting at this cornice line and at the windowsill here to illuminate some of the reliefs on the upper portions of the building. Again, the introduction here, this is an existing view on the upper left, a rendered view at the middle. We're working with existing incandescent lighting points here. These are actually original elements. A lot of the technology that is in place is nearly 100 years old. What we'll do is use these points as attachments for a very slim linear fixture finished in bronze, which will wash across the sides of the sculpture to create that even glow across these elements at the international buildings. That's a typical detail for a Maison Française, for the Palazzo d'Italia, as well as 636 Fifth Avenue. Turning to the side entries. So as I mentioned at the outset, the side entries to these buildings, which feed directly into building lobbies, have a sort of typical carved system, artwork that is either raised one limestone course above the opening, or in this instance, there's a frieze and then the artwork is set just above. So we've developed a detail to uplight these elements in a similar way for each of these side entries in a way that we think, while visible, is quite discreet. So again, an evening photograph, downlights with these very intense sconces which cast this all in shadow, and the introduction of a very narrow, what we refer to as a light line. It's a slim 2x2 fixture that spans the opening and uplights the artwork set above the entry. A section illustrating that fixture, and then a plan looking at it. It will be anchored at 2 points into the flat limestone on either side of the portal, and it will uplight the sculptures. These are typically polychrome painted limestone reliefs, and in a few instances they are just plain carved limestone. We're also looking to integrate uplighting, in-ground uplighting to highlight the portal itself. On 45 Rockefeller Plaza, the sculpture which commemorates the workmen of the center, similar sort of the relief here and the uplighting here. This installation also includes removing these incandescent lights in the soffit here, these non-historic lights, and putting in a linear fixture and the soffit at that entry, along with the in-ground uplighting. And then similar details showing that horizontal light line, in-ground details. The other detail that we see here is this frieze, which exists right at the top of the opening in some of the side entries to these buildings. We're looking to, again, use the same fixture, set a little bit lower so it doesn't obscure the actual artwork that we're looking to highlight, but to set it slightly lower, and again, a 2x2 fixture with just attachment points on either side, just 2 attachment points to anchor, the sculptures. At 1270, there's a similar detail, but tied into the storefront system. You can see a detail here of the bronze framing for the storefronts. Again, we have the same light line uplighting these 3 panels at the building entry, and then the 2 flanking storefront bays to the north and the south. So a similar detail at 1270 as well. And then a series of photographs of the locations where these other relief panels exist that we'd be proposing a similar treatment at each of the openings. And then finally, so the last section here, highlighting the different sort of sculpture groups around the center, and introducing what we're referring to as moonlighting around the center to provide some better daylighting around or evening lighting around the public spaces. So looking at Prometheus, obviously at Sunken Plaza, Youth and Maiden, which are currently on the east side of the plaza, but as part of the initial proposal we shared with you, we are relocating them back to here and here where they were located originally, the fountains and the Channel Gardens, and then the Credo Monument, which has also been now will be relocated up in Channel Gardens. So looking at Prometheus, primarily we are looking to relamp existing in-water fixtures to highlight Prometheus and also Youth and Maiden. We're also looking to introduce fixtures directly behind those new sculptures. Those fixtures will be completely hidden by the base of the sculptures. And then you can see these fixtures below the water line uplighting the sculpture group. Similarly, very small fixtures at the base of these cast bronze fountainheads within these 6 pools at the Channel Gardens, also set below the water line. And then the Credo Monument in its approved location now in Channel Gardens. So similar to the way we're lighting Noguchi's sculpture at 50 Rock, setting these fixtures very high up on the 10th floor, or 8th floor rather, of 610 and 620 Fifth Avenue to downlight and focus the light directly on the new Credo Monument's location. And then finally, just addressing that sort of ambient lighting. So right now, these are downlights set at the 4th floor and the 8th floor of some of these buildings. They're very much within the line of sight as you walk around the center in the evenings. So the solution is, again, to create what we're referring to as a moonlight quality here by introducing downlights from the very upper reaches of the higher buildings to wash the walking areas throughout the center. And what that results in is basically a plan that looks like this, with downlighting here at One Rock on the west and north facades, and as well at 45. This will cast a glow sort of over this central portion of the center, and tying into this notion of the public realm that we've been speaking about, enhancing the sort of public spaces and allowing the evening to sort of be as enjoyable, the center to be as enjoyable in the evening as it is in the daytime. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions, commissioners? Okay, and I also do want to just note for the record that Commissioner Goldblum and Commissioner Bland are recused from these 2 items and the following item, and are no longer present for this meeting. Okay, any questions? Okay, not seeing any hands raised. I'll just check, since this is technically the first time we're hearing this, we are going to take testimony, and I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to see if we have anyone here anyone who signed up to speak. And if you are in the meeting and wish to speak, please raise your hand so we can identify you. Lisa?
Sign up, Christine Roussel, and I'm going to bring you into the room. And turn on your camera if you choose.
Hello.
If you could state your name for the record, you have 3 minutes.
Are you speaking to me, Christine Roussel?
And if you would like to start your video camera, you can, but you don't have to. But we are ready for your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you. I've written you a letter, which I will read to you. It's quite brief. And it states, I have been involved with Rockefeller Center since the early 1970s when I was an art consultant to Vice President Nelson Rockefeller. Currently, I am the archivist for Rockefeller Center Archives and the author of both The Art of Rockefeller Center and The Guide to the Art of Rockefeller Center. Over these 40 plus years, my God, my appreciation for the stability and the historical importance of the center has grown substantially, especially as it nears its centennial. I feel as a multi-generational New Yorker and having had the privilege of working in the archive for the past decade, that the current proposed application clearly supports the efforts of the Commission to protect this New York architectural treasure. It was a pleasure to review the proposed plans for lighting the art and building entrances in the center. And the carefully crafted application reflects a pride of ownership and an awareness of historical integrity of this world-renowned urban center. Since its completion, the center has been a model for architects and developers around the world. They frequently come to the archives. The original planners and architects' devotion to detail is manifest in their, quote, beautification program, which incorporated art, gardens, and plazas. This space enhancement has substantially contributed to the center and over the past 80 years has played a part in its ongoing success. Previously, nowhere in the field of commercial architecture had art and decorative details played such an important role. In 1976, the American Institute of Architects declared the center to be the second most significant architectural achievement in America. Over the years, Rockefeller centers have never been afraid of change, but looked to any changes as improvements and integral to the whole, not radical veering away from what was clearly a financial and aesthetically successful urban center. These current proposals uphold that tradition and are protective of the art, the decorative details, entrances, and facades while enhancing these aspects. They fit attractively into the existing scheme. In my opinion, the improvements as cited in the proposals are desirable and amplify the center's original design. They are progressive, but not compromising in any manner, and I encourage the commissioners to support this thoughtful and well-crafted application. Be willing to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much for your time.
Lisa, we can't hear you.
Good though for testimony.
Okay, all right. And Rich, do we have any written comments?
We do have a resolution from Community Board 5, really for both these applications for Rockefeller Center, approving both of them. So I'll bring that up in the next time, but that's the only other written testimony that we have is that resolution.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Okay, commissioners, do we have any final questions for the applicants? Okay, not seeing any hands raised. I think we can move to our discussion. And, as you know, the commission, when we review proposed lighting plans, we're really looking at the fixtures, whether or not they're affecting historic or decorative significant features, and whether they detract from the landmark by virtue of their size, finish, material, or placement. And generally, we're not looking at the quality or the wattage of the light. And so this particular scheme includes some concealed fixtures, concealed within louvers or behind sculptures or in water features, and some very, very minimally visible fixtures, which may on their own have been eligible for a staff level permit. But again, there is a cumulative and comprehensive package being presented to you today, which includes the concealed fixtures, as well as some projecting fixtures at parapets and entrances, and some linear fixtures at entrances, cornices, sills, flagpoles, and some fixtures at flagpoles and marquees. So just to give you some context for the discussion, those are the fixtures that we can, I think, really focus on as we discuss it. So Commissioner Gustafson, would you like to start this discussion?
Somehow I knew you were going to pick me. Yeah, this is absolutely terrific. Every fixture they're using is subtle. It's changing nothing. It's detracting from nothing, and it's improving everything. The way it's being done, we don't even know the lighting is, the fixtures are there, but it's making us aware of the art that's always hiding from us in plain sight. All of that artwork is, generally speaking, it's hidden during the day by the bustle of the community around Rock Center. And at night, it's hidden in the shadows. What this project is doing is returning the existing beauty of these buildings to us. It is the definition of appropriate. There is not a single instance where your eye is going to be drawn to any one of these fixtures. And indeed, even if there was one where you actually would pick up the fixture, it's being overwhelmed by the beauty of what you're seeing.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Jefferson. Oh, there we go.
Technically well done. This lighting will add and create a new magical urban place at night.
Okay, Commissioner Lutfi.
I want to thank the applicants for a couple of things. First, for literally shining a light for us to see. I mean, the complex is so magnificent as it is, but I guess you don't realize until you look at a presentation that someone's barking.
That's me.
It shows, where the inconsistencies are and how much of the beauty here and the art here is really not visible during the evening. So thank you for bringing that to light for us. I think that as Sarah said, the fixtures are minimally visible, and even the ones that are linear or project, they blend into the backgrounds, and what they do is they bring everything light. I want to say that we have seen a lot of you, but it's kind of nice to have gotten all applications before us in a very short period of time, because it's nice to know that the ownership of this building is truly committed to preserving and enhancing this very, very important architectural and historical complex, whether it's by lighting up the artwork or improving the pedestrian flow or modifying the retail spaces for relevancy to today's market and also consistency in terms of the architecture. Every single one of these pieces that we have approved separately, it's nice to see how they're all going to work together and how they are all going to just add to the preservation and functioning and enjoyment of this complex. So I can approve this.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Chen?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As you know, my specialty in architecture school was architectural lighting, and couldn't be more delighted to see all this attention and detail and highlighting all these artwork being illuminated. My personal experience is that, is once you lit it up, you will never forget the experience. So kudos to the applicant and for a very, very nice presentation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Devonshire.
First, I think the person who came up with this concept should decorated with preservation sainthood. There, one of the things that John said was, well, in the daytime, this place is so popular that if you stop to look at the art, you become a problem for the masses. Nighttime, that the majesty, for me anyway, that the majesty of Rockefeller Center is really at the forefront. And at night, all of this artwork is obscured. This will change everything. This is just remarkable. I think the way they've approached it is perfection, and I support it completely. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Chapin.
I agree with all the speakers, and I had the same word that John did originally, which is this is just terrific to see all of this artwork illuminated. It brings art to life that we don't always notice, and it creates a sense of a thematic home for Rockefeller Center, even more than exists right now because of the way the artwork and the Art Deco theme ties together. And it's just so important for this iconic landmark part of New York. And to see something that where we're really celebrating New York City when we really need things to celebrate, and creating something that will be great for as tourists are able to return to the city. I'm just really delighted to see this.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Holford-Smith.
Well, I don't really have anything to add that hasn't already been said. It's a fantastic application, and I think it's extremely well done, and I can't wait to see it implemented.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think we have a consensus to support and recommend approval. And there are actually two applications that have been presented here. This is item number 3 and item number 3 and 4. So Commissioner Gustafson, would you like to make the motions?
In the matter of LPC 20-09274, 600 Fifth Avenue, the Manufacturers Hanover Trust Company building, an individual landmark, an office building designed by Carson and London and built in 50 to 52 as part of an Art Deco style office commercial and entertainment complex. Application is to install light fixtures. I recommend approval, noting that the work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed exterior light fixtures will be carefully installed with minimal penetrations and will utilize existing penetrations and attachments where possible, that the finishes of the fixtures will match the surrounding facade materials or will harmonize with the finishes of other materials found on the building and will not call undue attention to themselves, that small accent fixtures will be installed in discrete locations, including fixtures at flagpoles, and will not compete with significant architectural features, that small linear fixtures will be installed on cornices, sills, edges, and grills in a setback position and will not crowd or obscure architectural features, that the Rockefeller Center complex historically featured bronze sconces on facades above the first floor, and that the installation of additional matching bronze sconces will be in keeping with these historic installations, and that the cumulative effect of the proposed lighting design will enhance the special architectural and and artistic character of the Manufacturers Hanover Trust Company building individual landmark. Keep going.
Sorry, we'll have to, let's vote on that one. Commissioner Jefferson, will you second that motion? Commissioner Jefferson, just need a second for that motion.
He doesn't seem to be curious.
Okay.
Second the motion.
Okay. And Rich, let's call the vote on the first item.
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Shamir Barron. She's not here back yet. Okay. Commissioner Chapin. Commissioner Chapin is not. Commissioner Chapin?
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Chen?
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire?
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi?
Aye.
Commissioner Holford Smith?
Aye.
Okay, and 8 in favor and none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you. And we'll move to the next item.
Thank you.
In the matter of LPC 20-09273, 610 Fifth Avenue, 620 Fifth Avenue, 626 to 636 Fifth Avenue, 1 Rockefeller Plaza, 10 Rockefeller Plaza, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, 50 Rockefeller Plaza, 1230 Avenue of the Americas, 1250 Avenue of the Americas, and 1270 Avenue of the Americas. They're part of the Rockefeller Center, an individual landmark. We'll skip that. The application is to install light fixtures. I recommend approval, noting that the work will not damage or conceal any significant architectural features, that the proposed exterior light fixtures will be carefully installed with minimal penetrations and will utilize existing penetrations and attachments where possible, that the finishes of the fixtures will match the surrounding facade materials or will harmonize with the finishes of other materials found on the building and will not call undue attention to themselves, that small accent fixtures will be installed in discrete locations, including fixtures at piers, flagpoles, statues, marquees, parapets, and within water features and landscaping, and will not compete with or detract from architectural features of the buildings or site. That small linear fixtures will be installed on cornices, sills, edges, and grills in a setback position and will not crowd or obscure architectural features. That in-ground uplighting will be installed at select locations, generally at building entrances, and will be small in size and will not significantly impact or detract from the existing paving patterns. That the proposed horizontal and vertical linear bronze fixtures above select entrances are small in size and simple in design and will be selectively installed at lintels or returns, thereby highlighting significant artwork while maintaining a discrete presence. That the proposed linear downlight fixtures installed at the top of select piers at 630 Fifth Avenue will be installed in limited locations and with a small projection, and that the large scale of this building can support this installation in limited quantities. That the linear lighting of the soffit at the entrance of 45 Rockefeller Plaza will not project past the limestone and will emphasize the rectilinear design and details found at this entrance. That the Rockefeller Center complex historically featured bronze sconces on facades above the first floor, and that the installation of additional matching bronze sconces will be in keeping with these historic installations, and that the cumulative effect of the proposed lighting design will enhance the special architectural and artistic character of the Rockefeller Center individual landmark.
Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion?
Second.
Okay, Rich?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Commissioner Chen.
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
Rich,
yeah.
Commissioner Shamir Barron is there.
She is here. Okay, good. Commissioner Shamir Barron.
Well, I don't know if she saw enough of the presentation.
She's
You're muted.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I saw just the very end. So if you think it's inappropriate for me to vote.
Okay, then you can abstain. That's fine.
Abstain.
Okay.
Thank you.
So 8 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstained. The motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, Caroline, we'll move to
Item number 5. The next and last item is docket number 20-10480 for 630 Fifth Avenue, also known as 45 Rockefeller Plaza, the International Building, an interior landmark, and also an individual landmark. Manhattan, Block 1266, Lot 1, and it's an application for a certificate of appropriateness. It was read into the record on June 23rd, 2020. An Art Deco style lobby interior built in 1934 to 35 within an office building designed by the Associated Architects and built in 1933 to 34 as part of an Art Deco style office, commercial, and entertainment complex. The application is to install interior light fixtures and finishes.
Thank you. And before we turn it over to the applicant, Commissioner Devonshire, would you make a motion to open the proceedings? Sorry.
So moved.
Okay. And Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Let me mute everybody.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So the proceedings are now open and the applicants may speak.
Terrific. Thank you, Cass Stackelberg, Higgins, Quays, Barth and Partners. You'll be done with us soon. Michael Gabellini Shepherd is joining me for the presentation, and Andressa Lopez of Cooley Minato, the lighting designers as well, on the call. So I think this application follows on the heels of the exterior lighting scope. This is for a scope of work in the lobby of 45 Rockefeller Plaza. And Corey, I don't know yet that I have control of the presentation.
Just a moment. I had given it to Michael, but I will pass it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Should
Great.
be okay.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, very good. Similar to the work that we just shared with you, the goal here really is to enhance the quality and drama of this interior landmark space without affecting its overall architectural character. And I think you'll see the integration of discrete lighting in hidden locations, as well as the introduction of very slender new fixtures. Again, I think we are able to hopefully achieve that same goal that we set out for the exterior scope. So 45 Rockefeller Plaza, the view on the left, looking west with your back to Fifth Avenue up the escalators. This is an interior designated space, one of two designated lobbies at Rockefeller Center. The exterior and the lobby as well of 45 Rockefeller Plaza were designated in 1985. The view on the upper right of Atlas, the space, if you don't know, it is directly behind Atlas and Atlas Court and the main lobby of the building. A few things just to point out. The designation report obviously calls out the stone finishes, the terrazzo floor, the nickel bronze escalators, and it describes the space as the lobby. Sorry, it says of the space, the lobby remains one of the most dramatic spaces of its kind in New York City. And I think that drama is really something that we're happy to work with and to enhance. As well, one can see the marble finishes throughout. A few changes that have occurred in the lobby to point out that are also part of this effort. So on the perimeter walls in particular, historically there were display windows. I'm just showing you with the cursor here, and here there are 8 tall panels. And in 1978, there was a sculpture by Michio Ahara that was installed in these panels, and we're looking to enhance that. I'll also just note at the top of the escalator here, this is a bust of Charles Lindbergh that was added in 1975. Both pieces of artwork were commissioned by Nelson Rockefeller. A site plan of the building with Fifth Avenue and Atlas Court here on the right, Rockefeller Plaza on the left. So only a portion of the lobby is designated. It's highlighted here in this red dash line. The areas outside, highlighted in blue, are outside of the boundaries of the designation, and the work that we're obviously looking at today is within this space. A few existing photographs to share with you. Looking southwest with the escalators heading up to the mezzanine, you can see these Ihara sculpture groups here on the side walls. These are, you'll see a little bit more detail, this sort of kinetic sculpture of small plates set on wires. and we're looking to draw attention to those in a way that has been lost over time. I'll also point out here in this photograph, I think it's clear that the floor and the wall finishes in particular have been polished over time, and there's a sort of a buildup. And so these downlights, which are actually not historic, these were added a few decades ago, these downlights now are very reflective on the floor, which is not really how particularly the marble finishes were done originally in this space. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. And then this view from the mezzanine looking looking east to the back of Atlas and St. Patrick's Cathedral directly behind, just pointing out also these beautiful sconces that on either side of these H-plan columns, the major features of the lobby. A few additional photos, a similar view from the ground level looking southwest. You can see the Michio Ohara sculptures on the side. This space directly below the edge of the mezzanine. Again, the non-historic downlighting and this very reflective high polish on the green marble walls, which is, we think, not the original finish for that stone. And then another detail for the area beneath the escalator, which is part of the area work we'll share with you in a moment. Some detailed photos around the perimeter. As you'll see, some of the work we're doing similar to the work we proposed on the exterior is using some of the architectural features to hide fixtures and also to replace incandescent lighting with smaller, better light quality tuned LED fixtures. And then at the top of the mezzanine, the inscription on the white marble and the bust of Lindbergh here from 1978. Historic plan of the lobby, again, showing the highlighted portion here. There have been changes over time, changes to the circulation, but the main portion of the lobby and its volume remain the same. Some historic photographs from an architectural forum article that was published in 1935, soon after the building's completion. And one of the things here to point out in this sort of soaring interior of the main lobby volume is these side panels. So as I mentioned, originally these panels were used for displays and advertisements. And then in 1978, when the Ohara sculpture was installed, these were changed. As well on the photos on the right, these are photos from outside the designated space, but you can see that the lighting historically was indirect. So there were no downlights set into the flat plaster ceiling, but there were actually uplights. And you can also see the sort of muted quality to the terrazzo and to the walls compared to the sort of higher polish that exists today. So we think these are sort of give hints as to the sort of quality of the light and also the finish of the stonework in the historic lobby. Turning to a series of plans, mostly sort of diagrammatic just to illustrate areas of work, an existing plan on the left and a proposed plan on the right. So primarily the work that we're proposing is around the perimeter of the room, as well as some lighting installations underneath the escalator in that space that I just showed you in the existing photos. This is this sitting area below the escalator. A reflected ceiling plan, again, existing on the left and proposed on the right. We're looking to replace those large downlights set into the flat plaster, which are outside of the designated space, but with much smaller downlights. And then in the space, again, underneath the escalator, introduce some downlighting in that very dark space right now that will be part of a seating area. And then finally, the mezzanine plan, again, lighting along the perimeters, replacing existing incandescent fixtures, introducing some new fixtures, and a new lighting approach along the back wall of the mezzanine that Michael will take you through as part of the design presentation. Michael?
Yes, hello, commissioners. It's my pleasure to be here and to walk this through you and following with Cass's introduction. For us, I mean, this project really represents, again, a kind of clarifying effect of simple lighting upgrades. So new technology which is being added, very similar and complementary to the package which you had just reviewed and approved for all the exterior lighting. With this lobby, we're seeking to provide a higher color rendering so that the materials that will create an enhanced material kind of rendition that we believe will enhance the spatial character of the entire lobby. and as well as Cass mentioned, to reduce the reflectivity of both the wall and floor finishes, which will allow the space to read in a more holistic way to really pronounce these very majestic proportions as well as individual color tonality of the materials. And in this view, of course, which is looking just coming in from the entry off Fifth Avenue, looking at before on the left and a rendering on the right, that without changing the character of the room, the idea is to really balance and rebalance the illumination throughout the entire space. To use the white gold ceiling with uplighting, both for the four large up and down sconces, which are on these very unique columns, which will provide additional uplight onto that surface. And because that surface will be more subtly lit, it will also reflect back down and into the space. So the idea is to create and enhance, but also to clarify the balance of warmth, luminosity, and proportions and material rendition going through this space. Next, please. So now we're still looking west, and this is just, again, the side view of the mezzanine before or existing on the left and proposed on the right. That's how the sequence will work throughout this presentation. And it shows the elements of the enhanced lighting and luminosity of the Ihara bays, those vitrines, as well as the enhanced uplighting and downlighting on the Cipollino marble on the carved out front and back faces of these four major columns, as well to really pull out, again, the material rendition and the subtle changes of plane on this back rear scenic mezzanine facade, which is now used as a lounge. And to really create almost like lighting eyeliner with these very thin, slimline, bronze shielded linear lamps that'll subtly project light onto the surface of the green Verde Greek marble, and also the center panel, which has the Lindbergh inscription of this beautiful Italian Cipollino marble that goes throughout some of the elements in the space. As well as you see on the left, just the reflectivity of the floor and some of the material finishes of the marble, and then the subtle refinishing in the proposed, so that it creates less reflectivity and more balanced lighting through the space. Next, please. This is standing from the mezzanine, one of the most prominent views and just singular spaces and kind of, visual sort of connectivity. Of course, to see the volume of the space. On the left, the existing, on the right is the proposed, and out and onto looking east directly through the main arched entry of St. Patrick's. And so in the existing photograph, this is now not the original lighting, but a lot of this light you see reads very kind of orangish, quite warm, very low color rendition. These are HID sodium lamps for the columns, and these very, very low color rendition incandescent at each of the Ihara vertical bays. And so the concept for this is to really raise the color, what's called the CRI, the color rendering index, and to really create a much more balanced, but individually creating highlights for each of the individual elements, as well as in the proposed. You will see the addition at the window, the 3-bay proscenium window frame, that there is an introduction of a linear etched frame light with an addition to interior bronze mirror panels that will create an enhanced sense of entry, reflectivity, and also daylight coming in from the morning from east as it moves south. Next, please. And we're going to concentrate for a moment on this entry vestibule. And if you look on at the center above, number 4, it's a concept which the Commission has approved before. In this case, this is the landmark Rainbow Room, which we put in front of you a number of years ago. And it's a replace in kind detail that is so embedded into this room that we're using as a leitmotif for the windows of the main lobby. And that is a linear frame of etched light, as well as a very thin mirror, which is a bronze mirror, which is the original color. And our proposal is within, if you look at number 3, the depth of the piers and this kind of double glass ley light, which is existing plaster finish, which seems to be something which may or may not be original because it actually is unfinished. Other areas of the center and the entry in the upper right, number 5, which is a vestibule to the non-landmarked area of the west part of the lobby. This is a mock-up to do the same kind of light frame to really create the idea and to enhance the sense of glow as a kind of honey-colored effect to allow more depth from the outside looking in, but also to pull the interior elements from the inside out. Next, please. These are just drawings so that existing in number 1 on the left, number 2, the proposed, that you will see the proposal for this light bronze mirror on the full depth of that with the light frame just to the inside of the exterior as it goes around the 4 surfaces. Next, please. And here on the left is existing and on the right is proposed, where you see the light frame in number 2 and number 3 at the very outside, which will light the volume of that and subtly reflect off the mirror panels to create also an ability for more light to come into the space, but also to create more of a proscenium framed effect. Next, please. And from the exterior on the left, the existing, and on the right, the rendering. And this is, of course, not showing the real color rendition on the proposed rendering, but we've had to lighten it in order for you to actually get a sense of what we're trying to do. And of course, as Cass already reviewed on the exterior, how the interior will balance the additional exterior lighting proposals for Atlas Court. Next, please. We are now on the mezzanine, and in number 3, looking at the mezzanine, sort of looking north, and at the main Cipollino Lindbergh wall. And these are just existing details. Number 4, just a simple stepping of 4 inches from the center marble piers to the side, what were originally sort of mezzanine north corridors, both north and south, which have been for quite a number of years been closed. Next, please. And before current on the left and proposed on the right, just up at the top, On 4, the existing wall. 5 is the proposed, which, as you see, we're placing a very slimline bronze frame. And you can see the detail in the lower right in detail number 3 at 2 locations that are locked into the joints of the existing stone as they would go up, non-visible, to simply highlight, again, almost like eyeliner, the vertical pull of that back wall, and to showcase the subtle depths of this deco profiling. Next, please. And this shows in 1 and 2 the existing conditions, and in 3 and 4 it's the proposed linear bronze strip, non-visible light with a shield to again just side light and pull out the difference of the Cipollino and the Tino Grecian marble. Next, please. The next element that we would like to focus on is the underside of the escalator going up to the mezzanine. And Cass, I may have just locked out of my screen, so this might have happened. Please excuse that. And Cass, if you could please take over
Sure. Yep.
the description from here.
Okay, no problem. So this is the area beneath the escalator. You can see on the top left, photo 1, the angle of the escalator. Right now, the base here, there's a fluorescent light and a faux marble painted wood service door with a storage closet behind it. Just and a few additional photos, some infill terrazzo here. So the idea is to make this actually just a sitting area and to enhance some of the lighting within that space. An existing plan and RCP underneath the escalator on the bottom, and proposed plan and RCP at the top. So the idea, we're showing the furniture, but obviously the focus here is on the lighting, introducing lighting behind these piers, hidden from view, and then introduce light fixtures, downlight fixtures, very small aperture fixtures cut into these marble panels on the underside of the escalator. Some details to illustrate that. So again, an elevation looking toward the south and then looking to the east. So the idea is to hide the fixtures behind these marble-clad piers. These are very small 1x1 fixtures, just to create a framed wall panel, and to finish this panel with a very sort of white aluminum leaf that has you'll see in the finished sample, sort of a more sort of nickel silver finish quality to it. And then looking at some of the smaller scale fixtures around the perimeter of the room. So we mentioned the Ihara sculptures, these 8 different panels. So each of these panels are actually resting on, you can perhaps just see, horizontal cables, and there's a slight play to them. Historically, there were fans apparently that worked for a short time that added a little bit of kinetic quality to the fixtures. And right now you can see by the sort of these individual light points, there are incandescent bulbs down at the base, and incandescent bulbs that uplight these fixtures. So what we're looking to do is to actually replace the incandescent fixtures with a linear LED fixture that's going to have a motor in it that will actually simulate a kinetic quality to the sculpture itself. There's no color changing quality to it. It's all just a single light color, but it actually, because of the motor involved in the light, it actually will have a ripple sort of kinetic quality that will animate the sculpture again, which it has not been for much of the recent years. Elsewhere, again, these in section, these incandescent bulbs replaced with very small linear fixtures to eliminate this sort of staccato incandescent lighting here with a sort of more even linear fixture and linear lighting across the tops of these storefront panels. Similarly at the base, so that area is up here in this existing photo. Across the base of the storefronts, there's a very simple metal bulkhead panel. We're proposing, again, a 1-inch fixture right on the edge of the sill. It'll tuck in behind these granite piers, and you can see in section it doesn't project out very far. And that will just wash, in this rendering here in the center, you can see it'll just wash the floor area here and illuminate the quality of the metalwork at the base of the storefronts, which right now is just in shadow. Elsewhere at the main entries, this is an existing view on the left and a rendered view here in the center, utilizing these louver panels, the cavity here, tucking in a very small fixture to bring some lighting to these areas flanking the frames, and then replacing the incandescent bulbs at the main headers here with linear fixtures, again, to have a more even light. Similarly, some relamping and some introduction of some new fixtures, working with the historic sconces, replacing the incandescent bulbs with some new linear fixtures, and as well some new uplights and downlights to, again, to sort of take these hot spots away from these major sconces in the space, and to provide a more even glow for downlighting and uplighting against the white marble that's part of this structural architectural feature in the room. And then finally, an overall rendering, as we said, we're sort of looking to enhance the drama of the room, where we can, introducing hidden fixtures, relamping existing fixtures, and introducing some new fixtures along this back wall of the mezzanine, these very slender elements that really play up the sort of planarity of the back wall, and then improving the quality of the light by honing and refinishing the marble and terrazzo to get it back closer to the historic finish of the stone. That's our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Cass. Okay, commissioners, do we have any questions for this application?
I'll just advance. We do have materials if you want to see those. We're happy to spend time with that if you'd like, but I'll leave it here for now.
Okay, great. So not seeing any raised hands, I think we'll turn to Lisa and see if we have anyone who signed up to speak on this application.
And I apologize for the sound problems. Can you now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes, there's nobody signed up to speak, and there's no participants or attendees.
Okay, and Rich, did we receive written testimony?
No other written testimony besides that resolution.
So for the community board recommended approval. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So commissioners, if we don't have any other questions, I think we can move to our discussion. So one last chance to raise your hand for any questions. Okay. So I think we'll move right to our discussion. And I think, the approach here was very similar to the approach to the exterior lighting, to do concealed or very discrete fixtures with minimal penetrations. In addition to some linear fixtures and uplights and downlights, we also have the mirrors and the aluminum finish at the door. So we can talk about those as well in our discussion. So Commissioner Lutfi, would you like to begin on this one?
Sure. I'm not going to say that much because I feel pretty much the same way about this as I did the other application. I think it's very well done. The fixtures seem to be overall very discreet and very well placed. If you just look at this page 30 here and the image on the left, I feel like when I look at it that I'm in the center of a cathedral that has been expertly lit up with everything important illuminated in an enhanced but not overly dramatic way. So I can approve.
Okay, Commissioner Chen?
Same here, just like what Jeannie mentioned, is very, very thoughtfully done. The lighting fixtures are unobtrusive, well concealed, and I think it's an improvement over the current lighting.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Devonshire.
Let's see, make sure. Very well done. I can approve this.
Okay, Commissioner Chapin.
I agree. I think that they've installed them in a way that is discreet and reasonable, and find it totally appropriate.
And Commissioner Holford Smith.
I agree. I think this is a wonderful application as well. I think also the removal of the wax on the floor would make a huge impact, and I applaud that decision, as well as the lighting.
Great. And Commissioner Shamir Baran.
I think that this is just an incredibly well done, really kind of a brilliant application, in that it's sort of exactly what I think we want to see in these interior renovations. Such sensitivity to the quality of the experience of the place that results from these unbelievable materials. 5 years before this, the Barcelona pavilion, it uses Tinos marble, and then the pavilion goes away, and we don't really have the experience of this kind of experimentation with the kind of various calibrations of reflectivity in materials. And I think that this kind of approach to really sensitively framing and lighting and reflecting, by bringing back mirrored surfaces, is just so well done. So I am absolutely in great support of this.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Gustafson.
I must admit that Mr. Gabellini lost me when he compared some of the lighting to the purpose of eyeliner. I'm not sure I quite understood that. However, I am fascinated by the level of detail that's being paid to this this interior landmark. And to follow up on what Adi said, the reflectivity and walking around that lobby from one spot to the next and saying, okay, how is this supposed to work? How is it not working? It's absolutely fascinating. That is one type A personality. I think it's approvable as is. It's completely appropriate.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Carefully detailed, lighting, and appropriate.
Great, thank you. All right, so I think we have a consensus to approve again this, carefully detailed, well thought out scheme that really will enhance the quality of this interior landmark. So Commissioner Shamir Baran, would you like to read this motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay.
In the matter of LPC 2010480, 630 Fifth Avenue, aka 45 Rockefeller Plaza, International Building Interior Landmark, Rockefeller Center Individual Landmark, an Art Deco style lobby interior built in 1934-35 within an office building designed by the Associated Architects and built in 1933-34 as part of an Art Deco style office, commercial, and entertainment complex. The application is to install interior light fixtures and finishes. I recommend approval, finding that the work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed new light fixtures consisting of linear light strips, uplights and downlights will be carefully installed with limited penetrations without causing damage to historic materials, that the proposed linear fixtures and tinted mirrors installed within the reveals of the windows above the Fifth Avenue entrance will emphasize the verticality of these triple height openings originally intended to hold displays, that the linear fixtures at the mezzanine wall will be small in size and concealed by bronze channels, that the aluminum leaf finish partition below the escalator will be installed in front of utilitarian doors and will harmonize with the finishes of existing materials found within the designated space, that the recessed downlights at the underside of the escalator will be in discrete location, installed at flat areas of paneled marble, that other linear fixtures will be installed in locations where they will be concealed or will be seen within the context of other background materials, including at the bulkheads of storefront display windows, behind existing sconces and within niches and louvers, and that the cumulative effect of the proposed lighting design will enhance the special architectural character of this interior landmark.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lutfi, will you second that motion? Commissioner Lutfi?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Second?
Okay. And Rich, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Shamir Baran,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Devonshire,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi,
Aye.
Commissioner Holford Smith.
Aye.
Okay, 9 in favor and none opposed. The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. So that's approved again, and good luck to you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our day today, June 30th. And we will not be meeting next Tuesday, but we'll meet again for another public hearing and public meeting on July 14th. So thank you all, commissioners, for your dedication and your work today, and have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Likewise here. Hope the budget cut didn't affect you too much.
We're working through it.
Okay.
Take care.